this episode, we talk about suicide, suicidal thoughts, and mental health struggles. If you are ever struggling with any of these things, we urge you to reach out to a professional or somebody that you trust. We will link support down below, and we are always here for you.
Think of PMS and times it by 1,000,000. I would keep a little bit of a kind of diary of how I was feeling about a particular relationship. If you have ADHD and you menstruate, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to have PMDD.
Welcome to the Hormonal Hotline podcast with me, Ellisha Blake, the podcast where we talk about all the things that would usually stay in a group chat, but there are no boundaries here. We're having raw, honest and open conversations, and I want to thank you so much for being here. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to the Hormonal Hotline with me, Ellisha Blake. We are here today with Lily Rose Winter, who is a content creator and a PMDD advocate. Welcome, Lily.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I have had Lily on my screen for quite a while now, and we were just saying how weird it is to have, like, especially in the PMDD community, there's quite a few of us now who talk about it online. And when I first started, like, there wasn't that. And now it's so nice to have all of these like little like online besties online, and then you suddenly see them in person and you're like, oh my God, I know you. It's so nice.
Yeah, it's a really strange feeling, but it's very nice.
We were just saying that we're in such a bubble now that we know what PMDD is, but there's actually so many people out there that still don't know what it is. And I think really we should start the episode explaining exactly what it is. Do you want to take the lead?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to take the lead?
I mean, so PMDD stands for premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And I feel like a lot of the time, the kind of easiest entryway level to kind of start understanding what it is to think of PMS and times it by 1,000,000.
I always say PMS on crack.
Yeah. So I think once you get to know more about the details of PMDD, that kind of describing it as really, really intense PMS is something to kind of scrap, because it is a different entity. But I think coming into it as a brand new person, it's a good way to
like
kind
layman's
of have,
terms.
Yeah, it's a good way to start understanding what it is. And essentially it can look a little bit different in everyone, but in the luteal phase, so after you've ovulated and before you menstruate, you will experience a host of different symptoms, whether that be chronic fatigue, really, really dark depression and anxiety. And essentially, a lot of people describing it as just feeling like a completely different person in the lead up to your period. And it just is a lot more sinister and a lot more serious than your standard PMS. So that's kind of how I would describe it, simply put, and to kind of start understanding a little bit more about it. But yeah, there's a lot of different kind of details and differences between each person, but I would say that's kind of the overall.
Yeah. And when I was first diagnosed, I always remember the first video I ever posted, I actually pronounced it wrong, which was so embarrassing. It went super viral, and to this day people still comment on this video, and I'm so embarrassed.
How did you pronounce it?
Oh my God. So I got diagnosed with it, and I didn't know anyone with it, never heard of it. I'd seen it on Google. I was just having a mental breakdown one day, and I filmed myself, and I was like, I think I called it post-mental something. And then obviously everyone on the internet and their uncle and their aunt and their fish and their goat and their monkey was like, it's actually PMDD. It means premenstrual dysphoria.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I know, guys, I just said it wrong. I'm sorry. But like, it's kind of mad when you first get diagnosed. You don't know what it is. And I think I was about 1.5 years into being diagnosed before I found out that it's a hormonal mood disorder. I had no idea that it had anything to do with like your brain's reaction and the fluctuations that are happening in the body. And I hadn't even looked that deeply. I just thought, oh, it's just like PMS. It's just a bit worse.
Yeah.
But when you say that online, now people are like, it's not PMS. And it really isn't. It really isn't.
No, it's interesting though, because like you talking about your experience with getting diagnosed, because you saying that you had no idea kind of what it is, and I was the opposite. So it was actually my brother that said to me, oh, I've been reading up about this thing and I think that you might have it. And I'd kind of started to do some more research, and I'd already had a number of different kind of diagnoses, and it was kind of when things sort of clicked into place. So when I went to the doctors, I kind of went with like, here's my evidence, here's why I think that I have this. So it's interesting how, you know, you can have two different experiences.
I'd heard of it and I'd seen it on Google. And then I remember being like, that's what I have. And I remember saying to the doctor, like, I'm not letting you leave unless you tell me I have this, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I still didn't really take the time to know what it is, which is very me. It's very like ADHD of me to be like, oh, it's this. Yeah. Just diagnose me. Yeah. Like, I was very like, yeah. But that's amazing that your brother.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
And how long ago was that? When did you get diagnosed?
So I reckon, so I'm nearly 31 now. And I think I got my diagnosis when I was about 24.
Okay, so quite a while now.
Yeah.
You got diagnosed really before PMDD was spoken about anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And it took, I know that it must have been something that I suffered with beforehand, but I just had no idea. And I was kind of going to the doctors and saying, I'm having these issues with my mood, something's not right. And kind of either just being palmed off with, oh, you've got depression and anxiety. At one point, I was referred to the psychiatric team to see if I had bipolar.
That's very common.
Yeah. And they came to the conclusion that I didn't have bipolar because they felt like the mood changes were too frequent, which should have been a clue in itself. So they said that I had something called just extreme emotional dysregulation, which can be a symptom of so many different things. But one of them, it can be a symptom of a personality disorder. So they diagnosed me with a personality disorder a couple of years later. And I've since had that redacted from my medical record because I was then diagnosed with autism and ADHD.
Sorry, but that's so confusing to be diagnosed with something. Be like, okay, that's what I've got, fine. And then it gets taken away from you.
Yeah.
But that's not okay.
Yeah. And because there were certain things that didn't seem to kind of match up with my symptoms, but I was obviously trusting these doctors and thought, oh, okay, well, it must be that then. And then when I received my correct diagnosis alongside the PMDD, the way that they kind of all meld together just made so much more sense for my symptoms and the struggles I'd been having.
Would you say that's sort of when everything kind of started to click for you?
Yeah.
I bet I can imagine being in your head growing up, kind of moving through life without any of this support or knowing what was going on. Must have been super, super confusing.
Yeah.
And probably a very lonely place to be, right?
Yeah. I feel like I've always kind of felt a lot like an outsider sort of thing, even though you can look at someone and think, oh, but you don't look like an outsider. You look normal or whatever.
But it's just how you felt on the inside.
But it's just how you feel on the inside. And I think even now I really do struggle with looking at other people and being like, oh, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like whether that be in their professional lives or how they socialize and how they can just sort of interact with people with such ease. And I really, really struggle with it.
Yeah.
And I'll then kind of go away from some sort of social encounter and just overthink it massively.
Yeah, for days.
And really deep it.
Like there in the middle of the night thinking, why did I say that? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
That's a very like common way to be, isn't it? When you have lots of neurospicy things going on.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate. Wow. So obviously, growing up, how was it without any of these diagnoses? What is the word?
I think it's diagnoses. I think.
So growing up, how was it without being in your brain and especially from the PMDD point of view? So you got diagnosed with autism first?
So I got diagnosed with autism when I was 29 and then I got diagnosed with inattentive type ADHD when I was 30. And I think obviously getting my PMDD diagnosis was a really big part of like the puzzle, but until I got those other diagnoses, that was when it all kind of came together. Like it still felt like something was missing.
Yeah.
Because things obviously will be a lot harder when I'm in the luteal phase, but there's still things that I struggle with even when I'm in the good part of my cycle. And I think sometimes that can feel a little bit isolating when you hear people sort of talk about, oh, I feel great when I'm in my follicular phase and then my luteal phase is just absolute hell. And there is obviously truth in that for me. I do feel so much better when I'm in my follicular phase, but I do still struggle with the things that you struggle with autism and ADHD. So
You've got those to contend with the other half of the month.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And actually, I would like to touch on the kind of link, because I don't know much about it, but the link between people with autism, ADHD and PMDD, there is a link, isn't there?
Yeah. So people with ADHD, like with anything within women's health, studies can vary, and there's not really a huge amount of research that's done into it.
No.
But in terms of ADHD, there's studies that suggest if you have ADHD and you menstruate, that you're 3 to 4 times more likely to have PMDD.
Yeah.
And then in autism, it's a little bit more confusing, because there's been like one particular study where it found 92%, I think it was, of people that were autistic and have periods, they also matched the criteria for PMDD. But then there'll be other studies where it's around 40%, I think. So there is a big difference, but I mean, it still obviously indicates that if you have ADHD, if you have autism and you have periods, you are more likely to have PMDD than a neurotypical person.
Right.
So,
and I would love when people are getting diagnosed, especially if they have periods, for sort of them to be signposted to PMDD information, because I think I'd like to, have a look at these studies, because I think it's so important. And I wonder if the majority of people that do menstruate and say have ADHD, at some point in their life, I bet they have sort of had a moment where they think they might have had the PMDD symptoms, but they have no idea what it is because they've never heard of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't know exactly the science behind all of it, but the theory is that if you have ADHD, the reason that you suffer more with PMDD is that when your estrogen drops in your luteal phase, so does your dopamine. And you're already like, as someone with ADHD, you're already kind of like dopamine deficient. You don't have as much as a neurotypical person. So then that's why the luteal phase feels even harder, because you're working with even less dopamine.
Yeah, which makes sense why when you're, I don't know about you, but when I'm in my luteal phase, I mean, I'm undiagnosed ADHD, I'm on the waiting list.
Yeah.
But my doom scrolling, like I told you, I doom scrolled last night till 3 a.m. And then I've like got a big day today. Why did I do that?
Yeah.
But like my dopamine, I get home and I'm like, I need some sort kind of
quick fix
source.
Yeah.
And I'm in my luteal phase. I think I'm like, 10 days out. So I start doing things in my luteal phase that I'm like, I'd never usually do this. And it's like you're searching and seeking something. And it makes so much sense when you finally educate yourself on it, because you're like, okay. Yeah, for sure. But I know that for me, like in my luteal phase, I struggle way more with like brain fog. And my brain fog is so bad. I'm in my luteal phase at the moment, so definitely not feeling together, girl.
Yeah, I'm definitely not feeling my sharpest today.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, like sometimes it'll be I'm talking and I'm like, it's such a normal sentence, and I completely forget like everyday words, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing.
I hate that when you're like, what's the word? What's the word? And it's like the most simple thing. And
exactly. It's not like an obscure, like unknown. Yeah.
Would you say your PMDD is like massively affected like your work and your relationships?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, a silly question for me to even ask as someone with PMDD, because I know that, but for you,
it can be different for everyone though. That's the thing. And I have so much respect for these people that I follow on Instagram and TikTok that are doing these really amazing careers alongside having PMDD. And I'm like, how are you doing this?
It's possible, but I don't understand either sometimes. It's like
and I think for me, like I've now got to a place where I'm self-employed. I can kind of choose when I work, how much I can take on each week. And that's like a very privileged position to be in as well, which I'm really grateful for. But in the past, when I've worked like full-time hours and
a corporate job, I often wonder how people with PMDD like work.
Well, for me, like when I've tried it in the past, I can't do it. Like I burn out, and then I end up having to leave, and then you feel like a failure and you're really hard on yourself. And it's so tough. And I think with PMDD, people do experience the symptoms in different ways and in different severities. It's not to say that someone with a more kind of mild form of PMDD, that their experience isn't just as important and just as valid as someone who may suffer with more kind of severe symptoms. But I do think that obviously it can show up in different ways. Some people will struggle more with their career than others. Yeah. And
some people will struggle with their relationships more.
Yeah, exactly.
How would you say it's impacted your relationships?
Very badly.
Yeah, like all of them, like in terms of your like family as well, or just partners?
Yeah, so I think, so for me, in terms of like family and friendships, when I'm in the luteal phase, I just want to isolate.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be a burden. I get worried that I'm going to be too much and too difficult for people. And in terms of kind of romantic relationships, I'm very luckily now in a very loving partnership, and that's great. And it's taken me a while to get there. But there definitely have been relationships in the past that were very toxic and kind of these really big, like up and down emotions that were definitely making my PMDD worse.
Yeah, when you're in a toxic, and no one talks about this, but like when I've been super stressed or been in a really toxic relationship, like maybe like 10 years ago I was in one, my symptoms were, I didn't know it was PMDD, but were like off the scale.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like before, at this point I'd had my PMDD diagnosis, but I hadn't received my autism and ADHD diagnoses. And one of my ex-boyfriends, when we broke up, he was like, good luck finding someone else that will deal with your shit like I did. And I was just like, but because I didn't know that I was like I wasn't neurotypical. I didn't know that I was neurodivergent. Like you really take that in.
Yeah. So and then the like sensitivity, rejection sensitivity thing as well. And the like hypersensitivity. Yeah.
So then I did like have this belief for a really long time, like, I should just be grateful for like anyone wanting to be with me, because I am really difficult and I'm not easy to be with, and like stuff like that really does stick with you. Yeah.
No, I can so relate. And I used to have like tantrums, which I think it was like a whole trauma thing. I don't know, but like I literally used to go into like this thing where my body would. I think it was like I was massively overstimulated, and I watch kids do this now, where I would lock my knees and I would literally like squeeze my hands and I would be shaking, and I wouldn't scream, but I'd be going it was like in the throat. And I remember my partner at the time, we were so young, he was amazing, but he literally was like, what is going on? Like, what is going on? But I remember at one point he was like, you're not a fucking child, like and that's because that's what I looked like, but I couldn't, it was like the rage, I couldn't express myself. I didn't know what was going on inside of me, but you just felt like absolutely mad. Yeah,
that's the thing. And that's why like awareness and education is so important. Like if I look back to when I was in my early 20s, I never would have thought that I was autistic, because I didn't really know anything about it. Like I'd just seen particular examples or stereotypes that you see in the media or whatever, which are people that may have kind of higher support needs than I do, but that doesn't mean to say that I'm not autistic. It's just because my autism looks a bit different. I genuinely feel like
the only education I ever had on autism was The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night Time. You know that book?
I haven't actually read
it. It's a play and a book, and that was the only exposure I had to autism as a kid. Like, I was like, well, I'm not like Andrew, so
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like when I talk about my neurodivergency, you may have already picked up on this, but I speak more about my autism than my ADHD, because I feel like my autism is like my primary kind of diagnosis that I identify with most, and then ADHD almost feels like secondary for me. And I think, you know, both are valid, but I think in terms of what I feel I relate to most and what I struggle with most on a daily basis is the symptoms of autism as opposed to ADHD. But that's not to say that they're not both there and they're not both something that I struggle with.
What would you say your worst PMDD symptoms are?
So I feel like as I've gotten older, they've definitely got worse as I'm approaching I'm not at perimenopause yet, but perimenopause will happen earlier generally for people that are autistic or have ADHD.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah. So we've got that to look forward to.
I didn't want kids till I was 40. I literally know nothing about, like, my friend's she's perimenopausal, and that's the only exposure education I've had on it.
Yeah.
But and she also thinks that she's got ADHD. Wow. Honestly, why aren't we told this?
I know. But yeah, in terms of kind of my worst symptoms, I've noticed recently that I'm struggling a lot more with physical symptoms, which is interesting. But I think it's because I've taken more notice of them. Whereas before, I think you're so all consumed by the kind of emotional, mental symptoms that you don't really think too much about the physical ones. But my chronic fatigue in my luteal phase is so bad. Like trying to get out of bed and do basic things feels so difficult. And it doesn't seem to matter like how little or whatever that I do. I'm just still always really tired. Brain fog is another one, which I spoke about before, that I really struggle with. Just feeling like I almost can't access like parts of my brain that have the most basic information. And then in terms of kind of mental symptoms, like mental and emotional symptoms, just feeling like the most intense like hopelessness and depression and anxiety. And I'm quite a black and white thinker. So when I'm in this kind of grey area, I really struggle to know what to do and where to go. So as soon as I start feeling emotionally really bad, this is very dark, so bear with me. But I just feel like, okay, well, the only way out of this is for me to not be here anymore. Like I can't seem to just sit in the feeling. Like it feels really difficult for me to do. And it feels like the only way out of it is to just not be here anymore.
And do you get this every month?
Yeah, it's definitely
even now.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad as it used to be, because I think before there was more of an emotional element to it, of feeling like, oh, I don't have anything to live for. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm a burden. Whereas now there will still be times when it can feel like that, but sometimes it almost feels more of like a logical step, even though it's not logical. Like it is that kind of feeling of, I don't want to sit in this feeling. This happens every month. What am I going to do? Surely it makes the most sense to just choose to not be here anymore, in that really like illogical, matter-of-fact way that feels really logical at the time.
I can't bear that we have to go through this every month. Like I can't bear that you're still going through this every month. I've been there. I feel like what you said about how it's not from as much as an emotional place. I feel like you're obviously online educating people about this all the time. And I think the more aware you are when you get these thoughts, right? I always find now the more educated you are, it's easier to sort of bite back at those thoughts and be like, no, I know what this is. And for me, I think that's been easier, because now I'm like, okay, I know what that is. Okay, it's that monster in my brain and it's not me. But it still doesn't make it any easier at the same time, because it's so exhausting that's the result of all of these things. And then you just land back on that, I don't want to be here, or maybe I shouldn't be here, or wouldn't it be easier if I wasn't here, or they'd be happier if I wasn't here. And that's so tough.
I think a big thing as well that I've found is, I mean, we live in such a digital world that it's so easy to compare yourself to people online, whether that be someone with or without PMDD, or with or without autism and ADHD. And for me, I just felt like I was trying to force pretending to be positive so much that now I've tried to kind of reframe it as a way of like, I don't feel happy that I'm alive today, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's so much toxic kind of positivity out there. And sometimes you might feel that way if you have PMDD. Like you will have days where you think, I'm not thankful or happy to be alive today.
And people's go-to when you feel that way, it's like, you've got so much to be grateful for. And it's like, I don't think you quite understand that I have a monster inside of my brain right now. Like I have something consuming me in every sense. It's a voice. And it doesn't matter if you tell me that I'm beautiful and strong and I've got everything I could ever need. Yes, I know that I've got everything I need. I've got a roof over my head. We're sat in a podcast studio. But that still doesn't stop. And that's the thing with PMDD. It still doesn't shut that voice up. And I think that's what used to drive me insane, is I used to be like, nothing around me materialistically or anyone near me is going to be able to help me. And that's why I think people get so people despair so much, because it gets to the point where you're like, what can I do unless I shut this voice up?
Exactly.
There's nothing more
like,
I can do.
I've done all of the things I'm meant to do to make me feel better. And like you said, I've got a roof over my head, I've got people around me, but you know, PMDD, you can't really like access those logical parts of your brain so well when you do. And sometimes I think those voices can make you feel guilty, because it's like, well, I've got all these things.
And then you go back
I still
into
feel
this
crap.
Honestly, I've like received like some amazing news before when I've been in my luteal phase, and like dreams coming true kind of information and emails, and I'm sat there and I'm like, I feel nothing. I am numb. I cannot, and I hate that, because I'm like, if I'm not grateful for when those good things come, why is the universe going to bring me any more new amazing things? But it's like really hard sometimes, and I don't know, I feel like an idiot saying that, because I think we are so privileged, but it's just like really difficult to explain to people that it's nothing to do with your external life. It's everything inside.
Exactly.
And it's your brain versus you. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
No, 100%. And I don't know, maybe if we were speaking in like 2 weeks time when I was in the good part of my phase, I might be bringing a slightly different energy
here.
But
this is good, because there's so many people out there that are feeling exactly what you're saying, and they feel so alone. And I think we wouldn't be speaking about PMDD online if we hadn't been there and hadn't felt so alone. And I think these conversations are so important, and it's so important not to turn up and bring this fake positivity, like everything's great. And like, I think I'm a very lucky person, because I've managed to sort of get through the other side of PMDD, I would say mostly. I now have occasional months where I'm wobbly, but like I'm okay. But that still doesn't mean that I'm not going to have a month where those thoughts will come back. And it's really important when they do come back, if you do have an online community, to share that, because that is the reality, that you could have 6 months of your life that is amazing. And then you have a month where you're like, oh, she's back.
100%. That's the thing, is like sometimes people will have however many months of kind of symptomless PMDD, but that doesn't mean that they're cured. That it's not something that they will still struggle with. Some months can be harder than others, and I mean, that's why it's so important to have like that online community.
And let's talk about your online community. So what sort of spurred you on to create, you know, content around PMDD? And it's not easy. Like, no, if I'm honest, I get fed up of it sometimes. I'm like, I've started posting about other things because it can really drag you down.
Well, do you know what? I feel like you've obviously been creating content for quite a while, and I definitely saw you come up on like my For You page, and I thought, well, if this person's talking about it, then it must be something that people like need to hear. And I think for a long time, like, you can just feel really isolated, and you don't want to bring other people down, that you don't want to talk about it, kind of thing. And so I think seeing people like you and other creators online sort of gives you permission to be like, okay, this is like a safe space for me to share this and to talk about this and to reach as many people as possible, to help people feel less alone. Because, you know, I don't know that many people in real life that have PMDD, just like kind of a few people dotted here and there. So I think online community especially is really important, especially for, you know, anyone that might live in smaller, kind of more remote cities or whatever, to be able to see people that understand, that can validate them. Especially when doctors can be so challenging to try and get a diagnosis, get help, everything else. No, it can. Getting diagnosed with PMDD can be such a journey, and I think actually sharing your journey online for like being diagnosed can really help people, and just like giving them tools and tips and ways of how to advocate for themselves when they go to the doctor. And I always say this disclaimer that there are some amazing doctors out there, incredible doctors who can change lives, but there's some doctors that aren't going to be for you. And that's okay, but you will find the right person eventually. But it is so tiring advocating for yourself all the time. For sure. And it's, you know, it's not like the doctor's fault if they don't know about PMDD. Like, it's a bigger issue, is the fact that they're not getting
educated on it.
They're not getting told about it. So, you know, I don't feel any kind of anger towards, you know, doctors that misdiagnosed me or didn't see that something was wrong, because, you know, if they don't have the information, then
it's more of a systemic problem than it is just one individual.
But having said that, it obviously is important for you to speak to a doctor that you feel comfortable with. Like, some doctors just have a terrible bedside manner.
Do you know what? Some people do. I
always think like receptionists at doctors' offices as well. I'm like, oh God, there's some receptionists now listening being like, how dare you? But some of them I'm just like, how are you being so mean and rude? just trying to book a blood test.
Please give me my blood test. That's so funny. What would you say if you had to give someone advice on, you know, where to start, whether that's from their diagnosis or what what should they look into to improve their symptoms, to support themselves? What would you say?
So I think the thing is, everyone is different, and something that might help me might not help someone else. So say, for example, recently I tried a progesterone only pill. I did like loads of research on Reddit and stuff, like deep dive.
Love.
And loads of people had said this particular pill had like absolutely changed the game for their PMDD. So I went into it feeling very hopeful, and I was on it for a few months because I know sometimes it can take a little bit of time for your body to adjust and things, but it just made my PMDD worse. And I was like, okay, I've given this 3 good months. It hasn't changed. It hasn't stabilized. And so that didn't work for me. But then there were loads of people that it did. So it's difficult to sort of know exactly what is going to work. So everything I say kind of take with a pinch of salt. But yeah, some people might opt to go for like contraceptive, hormonal contraceptives. That can really work for some people. I know some people feel very like scared of taking any sort of hormones. And it's difficult because it is a bit of a kind of trial and error thing. For me, I've found that taking SSRIs has probably been the most helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is a bit annoying in that I do feel quite flat, like quite numb 24/7, if you know what I mean. But on the whole, like if I think about the person I was before to now, it's difficult you have to remind yourself like, oh, I have actually made a lot of improvements. It's just that I've now been on SSRIs for about coming up to maybe 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So a long time. So it's hard for me to even remember
who you were before.
Yeah, exactly. So that has really helped me. I've tried kind of being more mindful about just my limitations in terms of socializing, work-wise, boundaries. It's definitely made obviously a big difference as well, being in like a very supportive, loving relationship as opposed to a very toxic one. I also went sober, so that made a really big difference for me as well. I think a lot of the time I was like turning to that, like a drink or whatever.
I know some
more
other
than a
people
drink.
that have done this. Yeah.
Then like.
Also, alcohol is proven to like worsen PMDD symptoms.
Exactly.
I'm dreading, so I'm on in 10 days and I've just come back from Mexico. And I am dreading how I'm going to be maybe in 5 days' time, because obviously I've consumed 99% of me is probably mezcal right now. And I'm just very interested to see what my PMDD symptoms are like this month. Yeah.
So I think that's the thing though, is everyone is different. Like, you could be completely fine.
I might be fine.
Yeah.
I thrived in Mexico.
Exactly. And I feel like drinking on holiday.
You got to do it.
It's different to drinking at home. Do you know what I mean?
Doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't count.
Exactly. It's like having a cigarette when you're on holiday. It doesn't count. It doesn't count
in
either.
France, Paris.
Yeah.
We do not condone smoking and drinking here, I promise.
But that's the thing, is everyone is different, and alcohol might affect some people more than others. But for me, it was just like, instead of having a drink when I was celebrating or feeling good, is the fact that I was turning to it as like a quick fix.
When you were in your
when I
luteal
felt
phase.
bad. Like I was turning to it for the wrong emotions.
Okay.
And so then it might help a little bit in that moment, but in the long run.
And then you feel awful the next day.
Yeah, it's going to make things worse. Whereas, I think if I was just drinking in a kind of social way, it probably would have been fine, but I was turning to it to like put a plaster on the wound, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've gotten to a much healthier place with that now.
Sounds like you've stabilized. You've sort of got the things that you know work for you with your PMDD.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, like what you say, it's so interesting hearing you with the sort of experiments. Our bodies are like experiments, like as people with periods, like especially with PMDD, you just have to test everything out, which is also exhausting. But like I've never gone down the pill route because I had a bad experience when I was younger. But obviously initially when you first get diagnosed with PMDD, you get offered SSRIs in the pill.
Yeah.
I didn't ever go down the SSRI route. However, I always would be open to it because I believe that they can really help. And I've seen it firsthand. But then I've also seen it where it hasn't helped people. It's just so hard.
Yeah.
Like it constantly contradicts. Like, and I think I've now had so I obviously take Evelyn. But I've done that for like maybe a year and a half. And I think once you get to a point where you're like, okay, this works, I'm like, I can't change it.
Yeah.
I can't change it. But then there's someone else that might try it and it might not work for them. Yeah. But it's just so tiring.
Yeah.
Constantly, once you get to a point where I think we maybe now where we're like, this works, but getting to that point it's a bit of a uphill battle.
It's so time consuming. Like I think I tried 2 or 3 other SSRIs before the one that I'm on now. So it takes time to work out what is going to help. And I think that's the thing that's really difficult with PMDD is you don't feel like you have that luxury of time. Like you're in crisis mode, you want a quick fix.
Yeah.
And you don't often get that. It's very rare, like the first thing you try is going to work and that it's going to work that quickly. I
originally took, I think, maybe 15 supplements, if not more.
Yeah.
When before like Evelyn existed.
Yeah.
I went to like Holland and Barrett and literally took 15 different supplements. This woman was like, take this. I couldn't have been that good for me to just, do that, but it helped within like 4 months. But still, that's
the thing. 4 months, like when you look at your life overall, that's a short amount of time. 4 months of
feeling like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. Like 4 times.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
and the impact that has on everyone around you as well. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I will touch on relationships again because I want to delve back into that in a minute. But yeah, God, it is hard. It is hard. There's no way getting around it. Like PMDD is brutal. It's brutal. And I think it's so important that we talk about it because I'm so bored of sitting in, I don't know, places anywhere, in the pub, anywhere, talking to someone. They're like, I feel this, I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this before my period. And I'm like, babes, you've got PMDD. And they're like, what's that? They're like, and then, or I'll be talking about it in front of someone's like boyfriend. And they're like, he's like, I think my girlfriend's got that. Like she wants to break up with me every month. Like, and I'm like, yeah, that was me. Yeah. In a very loving relationship every single month. I just got like this like, and then also there was a judgment around that as well, like of being like, well, you can't be that happy. And I'm like, no, I am.
Yeah, I get that entirely.
Are you ready for some dilemmas?
I'm so ready.
So ready. Okay, we've had some lovely ones today. Really, really, really lovely dilemmas. Well, but they're not lovely what people are going through, but people have really, really shared, how they're feeling, which I just love. Hi, Ellisha. I've been following you both for a while and I've discovered what PMDD is and I'm almost certain I have it. I started taking supplements and see improvements, but it really differs from month to month. This month was particularly bad. I'm struggling with my relationship at the moment and honestly feel like I want to break up and run away every single month. I'm wondering if you have any tips on lifestyle factors that you did to help. Thank you both so much for your posts and raising awareness. It really helps. So cute.
Oh, that's very nice.
I know.
So one of the things I find most helpful for me is like I would keep a little bit of a kind of diary of how I was feeling about a particular relationship. And then you can kind of see if there's still any of those anxieties and questions when you're in your more kind of like logical, good part of your cycle. Because, there are sometimes relationships where it's not perfect and maybe there are some question marks there even when you're feeling good, but a lot of the time it can just be completely out of character. You're just in that bad part of your cycle and you wouldn't normally think that way about your relationship. So I think something that was really useful for me was kind of keeping a diary, like making note of how I was feeling and trying not to like act on any of those impulses until
I've never thought to do that with a relationship.
Yeah.
Because I do it with my symptoms, but I've never thought to actually write down exactly how I'm feeling about a certain person at a certain point. Yeah. That's really helpful.
Yeah. Another thing I used to do as well when I was in like, not a great relationship, but you don't always know that at the time.
No, never see it.
I would question like whether or not something was normal and if like the way that he was speaking to me, if it was okay. I mean, looking back on it now, it's like the writing's on the wall. Yeah. But I would take like screenshots of particular messages that he'd sent me.
That's your intuition being like, save this for later.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, you need to remember that in the moment you felt like this doesn't feel right, this doesn't feel okay. And I could then go back and look at it when I was feeling a bit more like calm, a bit more,
Yeah. And it's very easy to forget the things that you thought in your luteal phase when you're in your good phase. I think it was Katie that posted something about amnesia. But it's true, like you can fully forget how you felt. And I think sometimes you can be like, feel so awful about a relationship and then come out of the luteal phase and be like, I'm fine. Yeah, I would say it's really hard because obviously we don't know what kind of relationship this person is in.
Exactly.
They could be in a really good relationship. And I was in a very balanced, supportive relationship, especially once I'd got my diagnosis. We were together from very young. So in the beginning, it was teething problems and obviously we were teenagers. So like, he wasn't always going to fully be able to understand and be completely supportive because we were so young.
Yeah.
I mean, he always was as much as he could be, but the more educated he was, the better. And the more we grew together and we could support also each other with PMDD.
Yeah.
This podcast literally wouldn't be possible without Evelyn. Beyond producing it, they have personally helped me on my PMDD journey. I am literally in my luteal phase right now, and I'm telling you, it makes me emotional. 3 years ago, there's no way I could have even sat in this chair, done this podcast, or done anything in my luteal phase. I used to feel like I didn't want to be here before my period, like there was a big cloud looming over me, and life just felt so heavy in the 2 weeks before my period. But since I've started Evelyn's supplement routine over a year ago, genuinely my whole life has changed. I feel like I can live again before my period, turn up and do things like this, socialise. Everything around me has improved and I feel like I can really be myself again in my luteal phase. Evelyn makes science-backed, hormone-free supplements designed by experts for people like me. If you're struggling with your period, I honestly would urge you to give them a try. If you'd like to try them today, go to evelynhealth.com or use the link in our show notes and you can use Hotline 20 for 20% off your first order. I would say communication is absolutely fundamental with a relationship with PMDD. And I think I have Stardust, which is a female-led period app. They also don't sell your data apparently, which is fantastic. And you can share your partner on there. There's a feature where you literally can nudge your partner to show them
this is where I'm in my cycle. This is where I'm at
my cycle. Yeah. And I used to turn to Dylan and be like, I'm in my luteal phase. If I am a bit, a little bit sassy with you, that's why. And then you literally used to go, okay, okay. And same goes for my mum. I just kind of say to her, and she always knows anyway, because I isolate myself, don't ring her for a few days. And she's like, she understands. But it's all about just letting everyone around you kind of know the patterns that you have and be like, please just bear with me. But I would say if someone doesn't understand you, and you're in a relationship with PMDD, I think...
Red flag.
Kind of, yeah.
You would need someone there to support you.
You have to have someone that will support you if you have PMDD. The relationship isn't going to work. Mic drop, I'm going to say it. If they're not supportive, it ain't going to work. No. They're not the right person for you, in my opinion. So I think it's really important to find someone like your partner or my ex-partner who... There are people out there who can and will understand. And if they wanted to, they would.
So true.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. They also mentioned like lifestyle factors. I think we kind of touched on that earlier in the podcast, but I would say like therapy has been massive for me in terms of like my relationships with everyone, but also understanding PMDD and why I have it and how I can navigate life with it and how I can support myself on my own without having to always have an outreach and deal with other people.
Yeah, I think especially because like there's such a huge link between PMDD and trauma, like
massive.
It helps so much to have a professional to speak to and to like work through those things.
Maybe
in therapy.
In the show notes we'll link some like charities that do therapy as well, because obviously I understand therapy is a massive privilege.
Yeah. It's expensive.
But there are charities out there, and obviously the NHS does offer. It's difficult.
I think they do like CBT, don't they? Which is still better than nothing.
Yeah.
But
for sure. But no, lifestyle factors, I would say cycle sync, like work around your cycle, set boundaries, especially in your luteal phase, communicate with your partner. And if you can try and just really be gentle with yourself and kind of review your relationship and make notes, like you said.
Yeah, I know. It sounds really like kind of such an unsexy, unromantic thing to do, to be like, I'm just going to kind of keep some notes about my
even if someone didn't have PMDD, that's a good idea. If anyone ever makes you feel weird in your relationship, you should write it down and at some point review that and be like, was that okay that they spoke to me like that?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just the same as we would track like our symptoms and everything alongside in our cycle. If a relationship is something that you struggle with your PMDD, it's no different to any other symptom. Like start keeping like a track of it.
I will say I saw a post recently where someone was like, if you're in your luteal phase and you want to break up with your partner every month, it's because your relationship's awful.
No.
And everything that comes up in your luteal phase is coming up because it's shining a mirror of reality.
I've seen stuff like that.
And I'm like, no, hun, I really don't think. And actually, Happy Hormones Club, Rebecca commented on this post being like, love her, being like, hun, if you have PMDD, this is extremely dangerous messaging.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the things and the thoughts that come into your mind with PMDD are definitely not real.
Yeah, so not real.
So not real.
So not true.
It's literally an ugly monster in your brain.
Yeah.
So
that would be like saying to someone who has like OCD like, yeah, all your thoughts
compulsions
are true.
Yeah. It's quite toxic.
Yeah.
But no, going back to this, I think the best thing you can do with those things, I would say, like, really set your boundaries, really communicate, write everything down, reach out to people like us online. We are always here, and you will be okay. Like, if this person isn't meant for you, you will find the person. What's your partner called?
Mark.
You will find your Mark. You will find your Mark. Love you, Mark. Shout out. She's a queen. Okay, number 2. Hey, I'm feeling really confused with what's going on, whether I have PMS or PMDD, or whether it's just some crazy hormonal imbalance. Over the last 3 cycles, I've noticed sore breasts, and for the past 2 cycles, I've been completely all over the place. This current cycle feels even worse. I genuinely feel like I'm losing my mind. My emotions are so intense and overwhelming, and I feel like I've never experienced anything like this before. I'm just trying to figure it out. Does this sound like PMDD, or could I just be dealing with some hormonal issue or PMS? I don't know what's normal anymore, and it's really starting to worry me.
Oh, that sucks.
That's an isolating place to be. Yeah, it's not nice.
It's hard as well. Like, I mean, we're not doctors. We can't diagnose.
No.
We can only talk about like our
experiences,
personal experiences. Obviously kind of like echoing some of the things we said in the last dilemma, like start keeping a track of your symptoms, of when your periods are happening, so you can see if there's any kind of pattern. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I really feel for that person. Like, it's a really isolating and confusing place to be, and when you haven't got a diagnosis, you do like feel like, oh, do I have PMDD? Is it this? Is it that? And you just feel really lost because you don't have that kind of validation from like a trusted expert. What I would say as well, I mean, if they're worried about their hormone levels, you can obviously like request to have blood tests done to see if your hormones are at like the level they should be. And a lot of the time people with PMDD, their hormone levels will be within the normal range.
Yeah, you can't see it.
But then that does help to kind of rule anything else
thyroid
out.
issues.
Yeah, to just give you a bit of kind of peace of mind, so you can start like working your way through of like, okay,
it's not that.
It's not that. It could be this.
Like
then.
A process of elimination.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, one of the bits of advice I try to give people if they feel like they have PMDD and they're not sure is to keep track of symptoms and their cycles for at least like 2 to 3 cycles.
Yeah.
Do as much research as they can, make a GP appointment and say, look, I've got this like evidence for why I think it could be PMDD, but I would like to, you know, explore other options in case you think like it could be something else.
Yeah.
But if that person then goes away, does more research and feels very, very strongly that they do have PMDD, I always say to people, like, when you go into your GP appointment, a bit like how you said when you got your diagnosis, like go in there stating rather than asking, being like, I believe I have this because XYZ.
Yeah.
Like,
here are the facts.
Like,
here's my diary.
Here's, you know, the research I've done in terms of like possible treatments, and essentially kind of like not giving them as much of a chance to be like, no, you don't have that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of steering the conversation subtly to be like,
I literally think sometimes if I had to go in with someone now, I would make a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. I'd be like, I'd bring in my MacBook and be like, right, this is me on day 1 of my luteal phase. This is me the day I bleed. Like, here are the thoughts that I had. I'd have like a mind map. Like, honestly, because yeah, it's so true. But one thing I always say is, you know your body the best.
Yeah.
You know how you feel, and every single feeling and thought that you have is real. Some of the thoughts aren't real always because they're horrible thoughts, but
they're real, but they're not true.
Real, but they're not true.
Yeah.
And I also think it's really important, if you feel like you might have PMDD, to look at other people online that have it too, and see if those things resonate.
Yeah.
And I think if you can resonate with like 2 or 3 things that someone that is diagnosed with PMDD, the things that they're talking about, I think it's worth going to the doctor. It's worth having a chat. It's worth reaching out to people like us that have had that lived experience, who were at a point who didn't even know what it was, and then we got diagnosed, and we're now in communities and have lots of friends and that have PMDD. So it's quite common now. I mean, I'm awful. Like, people are like, I've got these symptoms. I'm like, yeah, you got it. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, but I'm like,
yeah. No, I mean, I think a lot of the time, if you think that you have it, You probably do.
Yeah, I think that.
Probably do.
But also, there's also a thing of being like in denial. Like I think a year before I got diagnosed, I looked it up and I was like, I don't have that. Like,
yeah.
It was very like, it was because it's like quite stigmatized. I was like,
yeah,
what? No, I don't have that. And then it gets to a point where the thoughts and the symptoms are so bad that you're like, I can't ignore this anymore.
Yeah.
So if you're on the edge of thinking that you might have it, I would say, yeah, diary, communicate with everyone around you, get someone to go into the doctor with you and advocate for you. I always find it's great if you can have someone like a partner or a parent who can be like, yeah, I've seen her at her very worst. And they can kind of back you up and you don't have to do all the like heavy lifting yourself. And actually I would actually like to start coming with people. Like I know Celia who is going to be on this podcast at some point, she literally said that she goes to appointments with people she doesn't know, but I would do that if anyone's in London and they need someone to go with them. I would do it because I quite enjoy helping them getting diagnosed. Like a free diagnosis buddy. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea.
Maybe we could talk to the PMDD project about that. I'm like, that's a new thing we could do for the charity.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Hey, I've been listening to the podcast and I absolutely love it. Love you. Thank you for listening. It's really resonated with me. Lately, I've been struggling a lot. I get urges to quit my job and my relationship, and I feel physically unwell with fatigue, almost like flu, starting about the 2 weeks before my period. I was wondering if you'd be open to sharing how you got diagnosed, what helped you, as my GP hasn't taken me seriously and I haven't even been referred yet. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's really helped. I'm just feeling so low with it all and nervous about going on the pill as it seems like the only option I'm being given. Thank you. Kind of touched on this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's hard. I mean, if your GP is not taking you seriously, definitely
find someone else.
See another GP at that practice. Like you're well within your rights to do that.
Yeah.
But I do totally empathize with that. I mean, my GP wasn't terrible, but he basically said to me like, until you try every single possible treatment that I can offer you, I won't refer you to gynecology.
Same.
It's really difficult, but I'd hope that within an entire medical practice, there would be at least one GP that listens to you and
I think as well you can. It's either on the website or if you ask the receptionist, like which GP is best practiced in, say, women's health. Or, and again, I think go again and take someone with you, someone different. Or if you didn't go with someone the first time, take someone with you because that's literally what we just said. And I think it's really important, especially if you're getting that flu-like thing that comes in, that can come in with PMDD. I used to get like achy knees. And
oh God, yeah.
The physical side of PMDD isn't spoken about a lot. And that can be absolutely brutal.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's because like the emotional part is so bad that you're like, oh, I'll just ignore the fact that like
about it.
I'm so achy and so tired and can barely get out of bed because you feel like it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, I agree. But I just think keep advocating for yourself. Go to a different person in the practice. If that fails, potentially think about moving practices. But like, I really would hope you don't have to do that. I know people that have and they've been successful. I'm trying to think what else you could do. Look at different, like Evelyn have loads of guides on how to approach the GP and how to get diagnosed. The PMDD project have loads and loads of different resources as well. Just get yourself really well informed and get yourself prepped for that next appointment. I am sorry that you're going through this though, because it is tiring. It's tiring.
It completely sucks that you have to advocate for yourself so much. Like it shouldn't have to be that way, but
and the pill isn't the only option.
No.
There are holistic, like things like Evelyn, and there are things like SSRIs, and there's so many different things. There's also homeopaths as well. Like if you, like I'm a bit woo-woo. I love all of these sorts of things. And when I've spoken to a homeopath, I've had some really good information. And I still take certain things that my homeopath gave me like 2 years ago. So there are many different options and routes.
And I think just like what we were saying, unfortunately, there's not a lot that's like a really quick fix. Like it can take time for something to work.
And actually when you have ADHD, all you want is like instant.
Yeah, so true.
Now it is time for quick fire questions. Are you feeling fiery?
I'm feeling fiery.
I'm feeling so fire. I'm on fire. Look at your face, fire. So number one, when did you approach PMDD and how is it different this time in a stable relationship?
Oh, that's interesting. So this time around, wasn't intending on doing this, but it came up first date.
Love. Which actually, when you becomes part of your work, you have to talk about it.
Yeah, it just came up
Breaks the ice.
First date. And I mean, this is going to sound very strange. I don't know how we got onto the topic of like children. And so I basically had said like, oh, I don't think I'll have children in the future because I have a particular condition called PMDD and is looking more likely that I'll probably have to have a chemical menopause than a surgical menopause kind of thing. I don't even know how we got onto the topic, but it just naturally kind of went there of just talking about things like that. Not together, obviously, you know. So I was very upfront from the get-go, and I normally would be like very secretive about it because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to scare them away. And that was really refreshing to do, to just be honest up front. I didn't go into too much detail, but I just said,
it's a really good way.
I've got this condition. It can affect potentially, you know, my future in terms of having children, because when you're in your 30s as well, that's quite a big thing. Like if children is important to someone, then you're probably not going to see them again.
And it's good to talk about it soon. Rip the band-aid off.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm always like, I've got this thing. It works like this. And then most of the time, the person will be like, wow, God, I can't believe you have to go through that. I'm really sorry.
Exactly.
And then you just move on. It's very chilled.
Exactly. And then as time has gone on, it's just, you know, been a case of learning more as we go on, like together as well, because each relationship is different, and I feel a lot more able to be like open and honest about how I'm feeling rather than having to like hide it or wear a mask.
Actually, if you can't be open with someone about your PMDD, again, red flag. Red flag. So tell them on the first date, and if they don't want you, piss off.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, go away. Ban you. Okay, number two.
Yeah.
What would the ideal journey look like for you from PMDD diagnosis to managing it every month?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for starters, to get a quicker diagnosis would be fab.
12 years on average, isn't it?
Yeah. Too long. Far too long. I think also in my case, obviously having autism and ADHD, it would have been great to kind of get more information about that. Like it was a good 5-6 years after getting my PMDD diagnosis that I learned that I had, you know, another condition that seems to be very strongly correlated with PMDD. And for me as well, I think being able to speak to a gynecologist, speak to a specialist, rather than having this back and forth with the GP of, oh, you have to try this, you have to try this until I can refer you. As well as obviously there being more actual specialist services available. And also have them more like interconnected. I feel like people are either placed in like a mental health facility or they're placed in like a hormonal thing. And it's like, why can't it all be linked? Because everything is connected. Yeah, exactly. Like my gynecologist didn't know a huge amount about PMDD. And it would just be great that if that was just more standard, like if doctors were learning more about the condition so that I felt that I was spending more time getting information from them rather than me having to be like, okay, let me go through all my history and tell you more about PMDD. So I think just having more efficiency, having more education so that things can just be as quick and easy as possible. You have to do less of your own research, which takes up a lot of energy.
It's exhausting.
Both physically and mentally and
emotionally
and
everything. I just need to go to sleep. I feel you. Would you say there's any time in your life where your PMDD has got worse because of like situations or stress or relationships, work?
So my PMDD got worse after a pregnancy. I've spoken to quite a few like mums where they've found that after having a child that their PMDD has gotten worse, or it's like the first time they've experienced it. And I haven't really seen a lot of people online talk about how their PMDD has been affected by a pregnancy that wasn't, you know, resulted in having a child. I had an abortion, and I kind of just want to be able to talk about it so that if there's anyone else that might be going through a similar thing, that they're not like, you're not
never
crazy.
Had anyone talk about this.
It's not in your head. So Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because there's not a huge amount of research. Like, I don't know if potentially, even if a pregnancy is like short, if it can affect kind of brain chemistry things. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I don't know if it can kind of affect things in the long run, because I know that obviously if you do have a baby, it can make a big difference.
Yeah.
But then I also think it probably ties into like trauma as well. Like, my pregnancy was quite a traumatic experience. I had quite a lot of like complications and the person I was with and all of this kind of stuff. And we know that trauma and PMDD kind of do go hand in hand. But yeah, I do feel, and I know from looking at like old diary entries and stuff, that was a real kind of turning point for me for when things got
escalated.
Yeah, when things got worse. And it's almost as if like my mind never quite went back to how I was pre-pregnancy.
Wow. And how long ago was this?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's for something for a long time like I didn't talk about, because you get worried about like people on the internet like having something to say.
Yeah, and there's also a lot around abortion, isn't there?
Yeah, but then it's like abortion's healthcare.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to like, just because I had a traumatic pregnancy doesn't mean that like you can have a non-traumatic pregnancy and still be within your rights to have an abortion.
Of course.
You can talk about it if you want. You can not talk about it. But I just ultimately decided like me talking about this could help a lot of people.
Yeah.
And is also helping to like reshift this mindset,
the stigma
that I've fallen into, that we all do, of like, oh, it's something that you shouldn't talk about. Or if you do, it needs to be something that's really difficult to talk about and really traumatic and whatever. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's your body and abortion is healthcare.
It's your choice.
And so I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to talk about it. And yeah, for me, it did make things a lot worse for my PMDD. And I don't know if there's anyone that might be listening to this being like, oh my God, I have the exact same experience.
Or some people might not have had any PMDD before and then they've gone through a similar situation to you. And then, because we all know PMDD can occur at any time after a traumatic event.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as you say, whether there's a link between like pregnancy, abortion and PMDD. Like, don't know. Or it could have just been the event itself and the stress that it put on your body.
Exactly.
That is what has changed the chemicals inside of you and caused your symptoms to be worse.
You know, I know from actual like evidence from like diaries and stuff that was like a real turning point for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'm so sorry you went through that though. Like, I am sorry. And I'm sorry that it was a horrific experience and things have continued to be not so great since.
Yeah, no, it is.
But like, you sharing that, like you say, will help so many people at home who I've never heard anyone talk about that before.
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm really actually interested to know about the whole pregnancy thing with PMDD, because sometimes I do find it really depressing. I'm like I didn't know this thing about perimenopause and ADHD. Like, there's just so many things. You think you've got yourself like stabilized, and it's like, well, now there's the next thing. If I want to have a kid, are they going to have PMDD? Am I going to get my symptoms going to get worse? Like, I am 100%. So sorry you went through that.
Thank you.
And
yeah, no, I think, you know, I've spoken to a number of mums that after having a kid, like, have had PMDD for the first time, or it's gotten a lot worse. So I feel like, you know, there is some evidence there, and it is important to talk about, because it does seem to be a thing that happens. It's quite freeing,
because it's like this is, you're owning your experience, like what you went through, and like it's a very real thing to go through, and so many people do go through it, but people don't talk about it because there is such a big, you know, thing around it that it's like, don't go near it, don't talk about it. Yeah, it stays at home. Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening.
Honestly, I have loved today. I'm pinching myself that I'm even able to sit opposite someone with PMDD, because a few years ago, A, didn't know what it was, and I was struggling for years and years and years on my own. B, never met anyone with PMDD at one point. And the fact now that we can sit across each other on a podcast,
I know.
It's like, it's crazy. Just because of us sharing things online, we're here. Yeah. And that's incredible.
I know.
Like, and I think sometimes it becomes very normalized, this whole experience of like, I just post online and I now have a community. Like, that's so cool. Yeah. And like, I think you should be really proud of yourself that like that's got you here.
Oh, thank you.
Like, and all the rubbish things you've been through. Yeah. And just from you sharing that experience and helping people. Yeah. You know, we're now sat opposite each other.
I know.
It's
I'm proud of you too. And yeah, it's just so nice to know like something good can come out of something hard and
and actually I wanted to mention you do the monthlies, don't you?
Yes, yeah. So me and Katie run the monthlies, which is an online PMDD support group in conjunction with the PMDD project.
Love the PMDD project.
So we do those the first Tuesday. Is it the first Tuesday or first Wednesday? Oh my God. I think it's the first Tuesday.
It's all right. They'll find it.
Yeah. Of every month at 7:30 in the evening. And it's just like a nice safe space for people to learn a bit more, be able to be like open and honest. You don't need to speak if you don't want to. You don't need to have your camera on if you don't want to.
Just show up.
Yeah, just show up as you are. I mean, most of the time I'm like in my PJs, phoning in from my bed, just like hair slicked back, looking an absolute mess. But it's just a nice, supportive, honest, lovely community. So
and where can they find you for that?
They can find us on my Instagram is Lily Rose Winter, and it's just in the link in my bio, so easy to find.
See, she's smashing it. Honestly, today we'll put everything in the show notes. Any support, anything, any of the guides from Evelyn, anything you need, we will put in the show notes, because I think it was a great episode, and we need to keep talking about PMDD, because I'm sure someone would have listened to this and been like, everything in my life now makes sense. Yeah. And that is so important. So
thank you so much.
Give you a hug. Thank you. And that's a wrap on another Hormonal Hotline episode. Please be sure to subscribe and please click the bell to get notifications. We cannot wait to have you back, and thank you so much for coming.